When I was invited to roast Stephen Cortright, I replied instantly, "No way in hell." I'd rather teach Tiger Woods how to swing a golf club. So I, honest to God, am not going to roast Stephen. He's many-sided. Several of those sides have received as much roasting as they need. Let me introduce myself. I'm Brother Kenneth Cardwell, graduate of the Integrated Liberal Arts Program, as the Integral Program was called in 1971. Program or curriculum?
Curriculum.
Curriculum. I graduated in the spring before that happy fall when Stephen A. That's a joke, by the way. Oh, happy fall. When Stephen A. Cortright arrived in Moraga. So I was gone when he got up to all of the hijinks which some people know some things about, and I have assiduously not investigated. Were you in on the cow on the 4th floor of the restaurant?
No. I know farm animals.
Okay, bricking up the wall of the,
Yes.
of the RV. There are many, and I get muddled. When I returned to SMC as a tutor, I left after a couple years and returned again, and Steve was here hard at work and hard at play. We had a number of wonderful events out in the Redwood Grove. The less said about them, the better. So, the Cortright's masterful roasts, many of you here have endured them, or at least one, have for years skewered and rotisseried seniors over a bed of their own flaming follies and sent them out into a hostile world with their glistening hides still smoking. This brings me to my topic. Unable to turn the heat up high enough to roast Stephen, yet unwilling to abandon a microphone and a captive audience, I make my apologies first to the long-suffering, gimlet-eyed spouse, Belinda, impeccable and gimlet-eyed, I've written here. Second, to the many immediate offspring, too numerous to count. And third, to Stephen yourself. We dwell in a calamitous world, perhaps like Job after his house collapsed and his cattle were driven off. And sometimes we may be, like Job, tempted to curse God and die. So I take refuge in God's defense of the world that God made. He asked Job if he had been there when he, God, created the whale, the Leviathan, the great Leviathan of the depths. And so now I don my protective helmet, whisper a prayer to Hermes and the spirit of Rabelais, and ask you to consider the rhinoceros. In particular, the endangered western white rhinoceros. This is going to protect me from... You don't know what's coming through those wires. Of the 3 geographic subspecies of white rhinoceros, not one is actually white. The common English name comes from the Afrikaans word wijd, which is cognate to our English wide, and refers to the animal's enormously wide mouth. This wide mouth is used for cropping short grass. A male bull white rhino can weigh from 2 to 4 tons. The cow, somewhat less. The larger of the bull's 2 horns is reputed to be an aphrodisiac. Poachers kill it for the horn alone. Most rhinos are nocturnal animals. During the day, when the sun is too intense for foraging and browsing, they pass their time wallowing in mud, where they are protected from insects and the sun. They have a thick skin, but it is actually quite sensitive. And the birds you see on the Nature Channel hopping along the back of the rhinoceros, they can draw blood. When blessed dusk arrives, the rhinoceros herds shake off their avian freeloaders and forage and graze until dawn. And the African rhinos, the southern and northern subspecies, graze in a territory roughly 1 mile square, and they mark it with vigorously scraped up piles of dung. The South African group of these animals is a conservation success story, brought back from the brink of extinction when fewer than 100 animals existed. After a century, the subspecies now boasts a population of 18,000. The northern population has not fared so well. Their future looks bleak. Half a dozen years ago, so sad, there were only 2 left, both female. The outlook for the western white rhino is even bleaker. The preserve of the last western white rhino consists of some 440 acres of mixed savanna, oakland, and marshland in a circle of low hills covered with green going gold grass, in the midst of which some over-optimistic dreamers built a college. In this mixed suburban environment, the lone western white rhinoceros has had to adjust its habits to its perilous and parlous circumstances. By day, it plods about, grazing and pooping, and kicking its dung piles into towering monuments, or standing hip-deep in the marsh, gazing off into the far distance. Day or night, it can be heard vocalizing, giving out doleful barks and heart-rending hendecasyllabic grunts. Deep moans that the surrounding hills echo back as something resembling human speech. And whenever the local pygmies find him standing as if lost in thought and approach too close so as to poke at his thick but sensitive eyes, in a surprising show of speed, he sweeps his wide mouth round, lurches forward, and grabs 1 or 2 of the pygmies and chomps. He does not chew and swallow, though, but merely licks the salt off them. He is, after all, a herbivore. I'm skipping a long scientific explanation of how it is not a four stomach kind of herbivore, but actually a, what do they call it? There's a name here that I like, a hind gut fermenter. Eats the stuff and it ferments way in the back. All local conservation efforts to preserve the last western white rhino having failed, the current plan is to relocate him to the southwestern desert and teach him to graze upon and teach his hind gut to ferment the saguaro cactus and desert mesquite. Foreseeing the departure of this last flesh and blood rhino from Moraga, a not-so-secretive tech startup down the peninsula called the Rhino Group has created a digital avatar of the last western white rhino. This digitization has captured its very soul, allowing admirers possessing sufficient storage capacity in their computers to download a virtual white rhino onto their desktop and from there project a holograph of the creature itself, plodding about, kicking together piles of digital poop. Soon to be available is a chip that devotees of the western rhino can implant in their brains and access whenever they wish to recall and revel in the rhino's presence. The process of creating the virtual white rhino revealed to the techies an astonishing fact. Many of the white rhinos, the western white rhino's traits, seem to have been already passed on to some of the pygmies. These noetic offspring, as it were, reproduce the genuine spiritual lineage of the last western white rhino. The just and steadfast, patient, dutiful, sensitive, hardworking, sagacious, temperate, and humorous soul of the living, breathing, snorting herbivore. Humorous, did you hear me say? Did you not understand that under that fierce-looking horn, you have a picture of it on your table, that wide mouth so suited so well for snarfing up short grasses is actually smiling? At what? Only God, or perhaps God and Belinda Cortright. No. All right. Having done that piece, I think now, Akko, if you would assist me. And Stephen, if you would approach the podium. Deputized by the recently constituted Society to Do Justice to Retiring Tutors, I have the honor, and it is truly an honor, to present Tutor Stephen Cortright with a modest token to remind him of our undying affection for him in all of his marvelous uniqueness. This distinction, created for this very purpose, never to be awarded again, is the integral program's first and last conferral of the Order of the Western White Rhino. Causa, obiter dictum, and solvitur ambulando. The symbol of which we are happy to burden him with is a thick-skinned, heavy, and apparently solid silver Western white Rhino. Thank you, Steve.